Today we're going to take you through the user guide for getting the most out of ProofPoint Essentials spam filtering provided by Intrasect Technologies. When we initially set up ProofPoint in your environment, you'll get an email from ProofPoint Essentials saying, welcome to the ProofPoint Essentials product. In this email there's a link to set your password. Go ahead and click that link and set your own personal password. This is the password that you're going to use to log in to change your settings. Once that password is set, you can log in and you will come to this page. This is your landing page. This is where you can take a look at your mail experience, where you can take a look at your personal settings and get them set the way you want them to be. So if we go to the settings tab, you can see that you'll first see your profile page, and this is where you can scroll down and see statistics about how many messages the product has stopped for you. How effectively is it working for you. But what I want to do today is I want to concentrate on two sections of these settings. That is the spam page and the digests page. But let's start with the spam page. When we set up your environment, Intrasect Technologies will use the default recommendations from ProofPoint, which is a trigger level of 7. Well, what does a trigger level of 7 mean? And that is the sweet spot that they have found in the filtering system that allows the most spam to be stopped without accidentally quarantining legitimate messages. Now, this is going to be good for most people out of the box, but inevitably you're going to have folks that either get more spam or a little more concerned about a legitimate message being delayed, so they want to tweak that a little bit. So let's look at your slider here. As you move the slider to the left, you will notice that fewer messages will be passed and more messages will be stopped. As you move the slider to the right, you'll see that more messages will be passed and fewer messages will be stopped. Our recommendation is, if you want to tweak your spam experience a little bit, let's say you feel like you're still getting a little too much spam, move it a notch and see how that works for you for a day, and see if that does better. See if you feel like the correct amount of spam is being blocked. No spam solution will ever stop 100% of spam messages and allow 100% of legitimate messages to come through flawlessly, but ProofPoint is at the top of their game. They are the leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for spam filtering solutions. We selected this product specifically because we feel like they do a great job. So with that understanding, you can take and customize the setting for yourself. It won't affect anyone other than you, but you have the power to control your own spam experience. You have an option if you would like to quarantine bulk email. Bulk email are newsletters that you probably signed up for that come from legitimate sources. They are mass mailings, however, though, and a lot of times they tend to be things, like I said before, advertisements, newsletters, or things that you genuinely ask for, but aren't necessarily personalized individual messages. You can quarantine those messages and decide to release them to yourself from the digest later if you wish, or you can choose no, and they'll pass on through. Stamping forward is a setting we don't necessarily recommend, because this is going to allow spam to go ahead and come through to your mailbox. It will just simply be tagged with the prefix spam when it comes in, which means it doesn't necessarily stop it from coming in. It just identifies it when it comes in. So we recommend that you leave this at no. And we will by default include easy spam reporting disclaimer on the messages that we bring through. Basically, a line gets added at the end of your message that says, would you like to report this message as spam, and provide you with a link that you can follow that will say, hey, this email message that made it through the system is a spam message. I'd like it to be reported as spam. That doesn't mean that no other spam will ever come in. That just means from that one particular sender, from that one sending source, it will be labeled as spam, although you will know that spammers change their tactics on a daily or hourly basis to try to still get messages in. Most of the messages will be handled by the normal ProofPoint Essentials filtering process. You may still get a message from time to time. Let's go to the Digest tab. Under digests, we send you an email every day that shows you what we quarantined. Now, messages that were absolutely spam, no doubt about it, they were just garbage, won't show up in your quarantine. But if there's a message that is questionable, it says, we think this is spam, we're pretty sure this is spam, but we wanted to show it to you just in case you were expecting to receive this message, every day at noon, you are going to receive a digest email that contains links to all the messages that ProofPoint stopped for you. And that message looks a lot like the example I've put up here on the screen. So here are the list of messages that were quarantined for me on this particular day. Directly from this email message, I can take action on these messages and either leave them alone if I know they're spam and I don't really want to do anything with them. I want them to go away and not bother me anymore. Or if I say, for instance, felt that this message from the AT&T Business Center was a legitimate message, I could choose to either release that message or release and approve. So what's the difference between the two? Release will simply allow this one message to be delivered to my inbox. Release and approve will not only release that message to my inbox, but it will also approve this sender and identify them as no longer being considered as a spammer. So if you have a legitimate message come in from a business partner, gets quarantined one day, using the release and approve method will bring that message into your mailbox, and that person will no longer be considered a spammer as it pertains to the messages that you receive. So let's talk about that digest a little bit. We send it each day at noon, and it includes every message that has been quarantined since the last time you received a digest. Doesn't include every message going back in history, it just includes those that have showed up in the last 24 hours. So that's something to remember. If you skip a digest message and don't go back and mess with it, you could have mail there waiting for you that you would have liked to have released. You do have the option. We send it once every 24 hours, but if you're someone who's more concerned that they might miss something, you could set that for every 12 or every 8 hours. One thing that I would caution you is that if you send it for every 12 or 8 hours, you are going to have 2 or 3 digest messages each day that you should look at and process to make sure that they don't contain legitimate mail that needs to be released. Most of our users have found that once a day at noon is good. For the first couple of weeks, they may need to identify a few people who are legitimate senders by using the release and approve method. But for the most part, after a few weeks of adjustment period, everything they see in their digest tends to be spam. They tend to delete the messages and move on with their day. This retention period indicates that any message that gets quarantined at this setting will be retained in the quarantine for 15 days. So if a sender says, hey, I sent you a message a couple of days ago and you never replied, and you suspect that that message may have been quarantined for spam, well, good news is ProofPoint still has that message, and they'll retain that for 15 days at this setting. Depending on the purchase level that you made with Intrasect Technologies, you may even have the ability for those messages to be retained for up to 30 days. Messages that have been quarantined can be found on the Quarantine tab, and if you get into a such situation where you believe a message is missing, you can certainly contact us, and we would be glad to help you locate that message. But you can certainly search for that message yourself by placing the sender's email address in the from line and doing a search. Of course, I put a sample in here to do a search, but this is a demo mailbox and we don't actually have any mail quarantined for this mailbox. But any messages that were quarantined within the time frame that you select here would be displayed down here, and you would have the ability to release that message, assuming that message did not contain a virus. If the message contained a virus, you may see that it was blocked, but it won't give you the ability to release that message to yourself. So if you have a sender who calls you and reports, hey, I tried to send you a message, and we determined that that message was blocked because it contained a virus, that's definitely something we'd need to contact that sender about and notify them that they are actually sending out virus messages and that the system won't let us release. The last feature that I'd like to make you aware of is your emergency inbox that shows up on this tab. The emergency inbox is a system that will kick in if your primary mail system breaks down. So we have the ability, if your primary mail system goes down, we can switch you over to an emergency inbox. That emergency inbox will not contain any of your old messages, but from the time we started using your emergency inbox, new messages will be queued in this mailbox, and you'll have the ability to read those messages and reply to those messages, even forward them on to other people. So that feature is available with certain licensing levels. But we made this demo for everyone that we sold the product to, so that is the emergency inbox feature. If we get to a point where you need to use the emergency inbox, we'll give you a little more information on how to use that. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video and familiarize yourself with the product. We'll keep this posted, and you can go back and review it if you want, but as usual, if you have any questions or concerns about the product, you can always call our support center and open up a ticket, and we'd be glad to go through it with you. Thank you.